Welcome back to Center Stage, everybody. We're talking with Bill O'Reilly of Fox News Channel's The O'Reilly Factor. Now, before you go to ABC News, you're in Portland, Oregon, and you get a phone call that your dad is sick.
Right.
And you want to go there and see him before he dies. Tell me what happened there.
The reason I was in Portland, Oregon to begin with was because after I had done all the reportage, I needed to get on my resume an anchor job, main anchor, big gun, all right, and then succeed, build some rating credential. And then my father got cancer, and I knew I had to come back. I came back, and my father did die. And then I went up to Boston because I had great friends up there, and then I did some work, Channel 5 up in Boston. So then my friend Joe Spencer, who was a correspondent for ABC News, he died 6 months after my father in a helicopter crash, and he was my best friend. So I gave the eulogy, and Roone Arledge was there, and all the ABC guys were there, and I basically told them about Joe and tried to give some comfort to Spencer's mom and dad. And then Arledge hired me on the spot.
Just from the eulogy?
Yeah, and I said, look, I don't really know if I want to get back into this because I didn't have a great experience at CBS News. And he said, look, you know, we'll be fair to you. And they were.
Now, Peter Jennings was the host of World News Tonight, and he liked you. Why did he like you?
I don't know.
Did you like him?
I did. But we were about 180 degrees apart. He was urbane with the pocket hanky, and I was this rough-hewn guy from Long Island. But I think he liked me because I didn't take any BS. Just didn't. Mm-hmm. And I think I worked really hard. I was on World News Tonight in two years and a few months 100 times. And when they send me anywhere, I'll go, and I'll do it, and whatever it takes, I'll bring the story back. I'm not afraid. But I'll tell you, why am I not afraid? Because I spent 18 years with my father. And if I could get through him, there's nothing that scares me, because he was a tough guy.
Was he proud of you when he died?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I accomplished something in my neighborhood that only Billy Joel has accomplished. It's just Joel and me, you know, breaking out. I mean, when I go back now, my mother still lives there. People go, why are you not in jail? How did that happen? How did you, you know, but the whole neighborhood knows how difficult it is to do what Billy Joel and I have done.
Now, in '91, you take a job as a correspondent for Inside Edition.
I had worked with the guys at CBS who took over Inside Edition.
Right.
So they knew my skill set. So they said, we're going to do this new show. It's going to be kind of a tabloid news show. David Frost is going to be the anchor man. And we want you to come over and be the top correspondent and fill in for Frost when he's not there. And I said, why would I leave ABC News, a prestigious job,
right,
to go over to your little shabby show? Why would I do that? And they go, well, because we'll double your salary, and in your contract, we'll put you can cover any story in the world, anywhere, anytime. If you get that opportunity,
right,
you take it.
Right.
So Frost was fired 3 weeks into the run, and I got that job. And the show was going down a chute. After 3 weeks, it was collapsing. I said, but I write everything, even the promos. You're going to do it my way, all right? So, long story short, Inside Edition becomes a huge success. Enormous moneymaker for King World. Still on the air. And I covered the Berlin Wall coming down. I went to Vietnam, Australia, Bangkok, Thailand, covering the child sex trafficking, all over Europe, Africa. I went everywhere. I took advantage of that clause and just traveled the globe doing great stories.
Okay, all of that, and it's a hugely successful hit. And then '94, you go, I'm going to go back to school. Why?
Well, because number one, I knew that the tabloid genre had tapped out. Mm-hmm. Now, I could have hung on, I think, and maybe eked out a few more years. I was making a lot of money. And I said, you know, let me finish up at Harvard and get my master's in public administration and take a breather. And they thought I was crazy, walking away from $1 million.
Right.
So I went up to Cambridge, and I designed a factor up there.
All right, so how do you get from Harvard to Fox? Okay, you design the factor, you need a place to put it. How do you and Roger Ailes of Fox?
Well, Ailes knew me because of Inside Edition. When you're putting up numbers like that, when you're making the money that King World made on that show, mm-hmm, everybody in the business knows. Mm-hmm. We're printing money at Inside Edition. That's how much money they made. So Ailes is smart. He's a smart guy. He's got a new startup network. He's looking for guys who have done it. And he knew me. I walked in. I said, hey, Roger, I got a show. You want to see it? I got it. He goes, when do you want to start? And so that was it.
Now, the show starts at 6 p.m.
Right.
doesn't do well. Now,
now that
doesn't do as well as it did later.
First mistake came in. And not his fault, because that's the urban legend. We had 15 million subs. Nobody saw it.
Right.
All right? It wasn't on anywhere. So I take a 6 o'clock slot. All right? There's nobody watching it. But it was good because I honed it.
Then why the move to 8?
Well, because nobody was doing well. CNN was a giant colossus. And then the numbers started to come up a little bit. And then at 8 o'clock, Catherine Cryer was having trouble. Not her fault. And they said, well, this O'Reilly's so obnoxious, we got to move him into prime time. Let's take a chance. And they moved it into prime time, and then it just built and built and built.
Is 8 a better time for it?
Of course. I mean, I was scaring old ladies at 6. They were frightened.
Now, Els also knew you because you filled in on a show a couple of times.
Yeah.
Now, I've heard about an interview that you did with Keith Hernandez that got very contentious. What was that about?
Well, whenever I do an interview, I look for the seam of the interview. The thing that strikes me as an interesting part of the person I'm interviewing. The interesting thing about Hernandez to me was that he was drug involved, yet played at a very high level while he was drug involved. All right? I said, now, how does that work? You're out all night getting blasted on cocaine, which he admitted. And then you show up and you're winning a Golden Glove and you're a star.
He didn't like it.
It wasn't so interesting to him. Okay, so I didn't mean to be obnoxious, but I just naturally am. So I just asked him, you know, because I played baseball, and it's a very difficult game to play at that level when you're sober, when you get a lot of sleep. But he didn't want to discuss it.
Have you guys ever talked since then?
Yes.
And you okay now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I buy gold from him. Isn't he sell gold out in Long Island somewhere?
Speaking of gold, Bill O'Reilly becomes a superstar on Fox News. We'll talk about that when we return on Center Stage.